Let me now start the sessions, which is the first day of the training series that the United Nations Environment Programs and AIT is organizing. And this series of the webinars and in-person training program is, titled as the policy dialogue that we would like to discuss about the circular economy policies and practice for sustainable infrastructure. So as you perhaps noticed that in our announcement and our brochure, this series of the program is going for 4 days. So there will be, 3 half days and the 1 full days in AIT on the 9th of June. Okay, so we are now on the first day. So I would like to welcome all the audience who are presenting here today, this afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone. So we are going to now have the formal opening ceremony session of this training series. So may I now invite Dr. Mushtaq Memont, the Regional Coordinator for Resource Efficiencies in Asia Pacific of UNEP Regional Office in Bangkok, to welcome and to give the opening remarks. Dr. Mushtaq, please.
Thank you, Kunja. So good afternoon, good morning, colleagues, and also all the participants. As we are here today for the training on the circular economy for sustainable infrastructure, as you might know that currently we had quite many international agreements on the table, starting from SDGs to the Paris Agreement to the more recently plastic pollution agreement in United Nations Environment Assembly and so on. So basically most of the countries, they are committed to make a sustained progress towards the better environment or better sustainable development. Now, how that can be materialized? That is the most important question. So if we are looking on the mechanisms to achieve the sustainable development, addressing the triple planetary crisis, climate change, loss of nature and biodiversity, and pollution, we look to the new economy or new economic models. And circular economy is one of the key models that is being now practiced in many countries. And that has been scaled up in different sectors and different ways, including from the policy perspective, from the technology perspective, financing, awareness, and so on. So what does it mean by circular economy? The circular economy immediate explanation or definition is that we reduce the impact of the natural resources in the economy, and we reduce also the emissions, whether be the gaseous emissions, whether be the solid waste, whether be the liquid emissions, and so on. Basically, we improve the resource efficiency in the system, and we recirculate the resources within the system. Now, recirculating the materials within the system also required a lot of energy, a lot of water for recycling and everything. That's why recycling is the least, I would say, preferred part of circular economy. The most important part is that what does it mean? Like suppose we have to take 10 million kilometer trips per day in our country. How those trips are taken, what amount of the infrastructure is required for those trips, how much steel is required for different like automobiles or public transport, how much petrol is required, and so on. Similarly, if we have to, let's say, feed a nation of 200 million people, how much food is required? So, and how that food is produced. So if you look back at the food loss, at the food waste, and so on, again, under the 12 SDG, sustainable consumption and production, you can easily see this circular economy is more upstream, that how you achieve the same quality or better quality of life with minimum resources required and minimum wastage and pollution. That is the goal. Now, infrastructure plays a very, very important role for any economies, including the buildings, including the transport sector, the energy installations, water dams, and so on. So basically, circular economy connection through sustainable infrastructure is very, very important, as we see that infrastructure development requires a lot of resources for its installation or construction, and also its operation and maintenance. So how this circular economy models can help through better policy legislatives, through better institutional capacities, through better financing, and through better technology innovations. That is the key for today's or this training, where all the eminent trainers and the speakers will talk to you about that. But my only submission or request to all of you, that at the end of every day, though you will have other homework, group work for sure, but at the end of the day, if you can sit down with your coffee or tea or drink and look back at the day, that in this context, what did you learn, and also what did you contribute to your group, to the discussions, and what value added this training is bringing to you, to your personal and professional lives. That reflection will be very important on daily basis, and you may like to submit at the end of day, at the end of training, to me or my colleague Cheng Chen. So at that note, I see my colleague Dr. Christopher Garnier is already smiling. So let me thank you very much and hand over back to Kunjo. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Memon. Opening speech, opening remarks, and opening notes that giving to the audience and us, the team of the speakers and also the organizers at AIT Extensions. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Christopher Garnier, our Executive Director of AIT Extensions, to welcome the audience and also give opening speech of this 4 days events that we organize at the studio at AIT, but also we broadcast to everywhere in the world. Dr. Chris, please.
Thank you, Pijo. Hey, how great right now is that we have this opportunity to be together. Before I even start and talk about how great the opportunity is, I first just want to thank UNEP and the great Dr. Mushtaq. He is such an inspiration for AIT, but also just an inspiration within the region, really looking at these sustainability issues. So Dr. Memon, always my pleasure, sir, to have you around. Listen, I'm not an expert whatsoever when it comes to sustainability. If we look, however, I do know that human interaction with the environment has brought many, many adverse effects. Some positive, but a lot of negative. And I also know that human interaction is also the very thing that's going to solve a lot of these issues. My expertise is in education. My center that we run, AIT Extension, we focus on providing upskilling, professional education, corporate training. And you guys sitting here, you being a part of this right here, you are the key. You're training yourselves, you're teaching yourselves, and what you learn is the very key that will provide sustainability for this planet. You know, I encourage you, just like Dr. Mushtaq said before, what did you learn at the end of your sessions? How does it apply to your professional jobs? But my other question that I'm going to ask is, what are you going to do about it now? How are you going to act? What is that call for action? Listen, you guys are in for such a good treat. And I encourage you to keep your ears open, your minds open, and enjoy the ride. Hey, thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and input at the end of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christopher, for your opening remarks. Thank you for your time in joining. And, Dr. Chris is leading AIT Extensions that we are working directly with the UNEP colleagues to launch this program in the next 4 days. So we are very, very excited, and we are really delighted that we are working with the colleagues from UNEP and wish they have a lot of experience, especially from the international perspective from various countries and the regions that the UNEP is working on. So today's and the later will be a very good learning day for everybody, and also not only for the policymakers, but also what I'm saying is that actually we have a group of people who can serve as a think tank for the future policies on circular economies, especially on the applications to the infrastructure development in the future. So we can also, explore how we could help the countries, whether these developing countries, low-income countries, middle-income countries, but how we are going to materialize the policies on circular economies, especially on the infrastructure side. So without further ado, I would like to now start with the keynote speakers. And, the keynote speaker will give the keynote speech, which is related to the introductions of the works that has been carried out by UNEP at the multinational level and also at the international and global level on the circularity for sustainable infrastructures. May I now invite Mr. Cheng Chen, the consultant of UNEP, to deliver his keynote speech for our audience. Chen Chen, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Joe. Also, thank you very much, Mushtaq and Chris, for delivering the opening speech. Let me share my screen. See my screen? Okay. Thank you very much again, and I will use the next 20 minutes or so to share with you to set the scene of the training for the following week. A little bit difficulties in the technology here. Let me quickly. Thank you again, everybody. Welcome to the training for this week, and we are very pleased to share our experience and our knowledge here, but we are also very happy to hear from every one of you your experience, your suggestions to us. So please feel free to type any of your questions in the chat box and raise your hand so that we can make it a truly interactive training session. Asia's soaring economic growth has been based on the linear take, make, dispose model, leading to a tremendous increase in the extraction of natural resources in the past decades, posing adverse effects on the planet. Resource extraction and processing are responsible for more than 90% of both global biodiversity loss and water stress, and approximately 79% of global greenhouse gas emissions are associated with infrastructure. In emerging economies, particularly in Asia and the Pacific, the rapid increase in material resource extraction is mainly driven by the expansion of infrastructure. If we continue to follow linear economic models, both resource extraction and greenhouse gas emissions will continue to increase in the future, as an estimated 75% of the infrastructure that will exist in 2050 remains to be built to meet the needs of a growing and increasingly urban population. The Asian Development Bank in 2017 estimated a financing gap in economic infrastructure of $460 billion per year for Asia. In addition, the infrastructure is also a major source of solid waste and other forms of pollution throughout its life cycle. 40% of solid waste comes from the construction, maintenance, and demolition of buildings. Value is lost at every stage of the linear production process through waste and inefficiency. A circular economy is one in which the value of products, materials, and resources is maintained in the economy for as long as possible, and the resource extraction and waste generation are minimized. Circular economic models decouple economic growth from resource consumption by extending the useful life of the things we make, build, and use, and by closing material loops. Thus, waste from certain products and processes serves to provide inputs for other products and processes. This is also known as industrial symbiosis. Transitioning to circular...
Sorry to interrupt. The slide is moving on your screen, but it's not moving on the big screen, on the audience side.
Oh, don't worry. It will move later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still the introduction stage.
Oh, okay, I see.
Transitioning to circular economic models will require infrastructure that is fit for purpose. Infrastructure must be planned, built, and operated in a way that maximizes synergies between infrastructure systems to enable industrial symbiosis and closed loops. A shift towards sourcing materials locally, use of recycled and alternative materials, more shared ownership, and flexible models can also help reduce the resource intensity of infrastructure systems. The successful implementation of these concepts requires strategic planning during the early phases of the infrastructure lifecycle prior to the development of infrastructure projects. The COVID-19 economic recovery packages present a particularly favorable opportunity to introduce policies and economic incentives to promote this shift to a more sustainable, resilient, and circular infrastructure. Given that infrastructure systems have decades-long lifespans, it is critical that stimulus investment is targeted at sustainable infrastructure, yet we haven't done so. Of over $3 trillion in recovery spending committed globally so far, less than 1/3 has been allocated to initiatives considered green. The infrastructure we build today will shape the economy of tomorrow, and the magnitude of the resulting costs and benefits depends on the choices we make now. So in response to these challenges, UNEP created the Sustainable Infrastructure Partnership in 2018 as a platform to promote and support integrated approaches to sustainable infrastructure planning and development. In addition, UNEP, UNIDO, and the European Commission brought together governments and relevant networks and organizations in 2020 and established the Global Alliance on Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency, aiming to provide a global impetus for initiatives related to the circular economy transition, resource efficiency, and sustainable consumption and production. At the 5th UN Environment Assembly in 2020, member states continued global efforts by adopting a number of resolutions. And of particular relevance to the week to the training week, the upcoming training week, resolution on an enhancing circular economy as a contribution to achieving sustainable consumption and production, and the resolution on sustainable and resilient infrastructure are of the most importance to us, to the upcoming training week. So I hope this lays a background of my presentation now on the international good practice principles for sustainable infrastructure and the rationale of the trainings that we organized this week. So first, I'd like to start with some basic definitions to clarify what we mean when we talk about infrastructure. First, we're talking about infrastructure in all sectors. In addition to the traditional infrastructure sectors like energy, transport, and water, we are also covering other sectors like housing, food systems, telecommunication, health, and a number of other infrastructure sectors. And very importantly, our discussion of infrastructure systems includes both built or the so-called gray infrastructure in all sectors, as well as natural or green infrastructure. So here we're talking about landscapes and ecosystems that provide many of the services as built infrastructure. And then also the hybrid infrastructure that combines elements of green and the gray. And when we talk about sustainable infrastructure, we are using a definition adapted from the Inter-American Development Bank. So two things to point out in the definition. First, sustainable infrastructure is not any specific type of infrastructure. It actually refers to the outcomes of infrastructure development. Just because an infrastructure project might be in a sustainable sector like renewable energy, it does not mean that it is automatically sustainable in a holistic sense. Perhaps it is low carbon, but there may be negative impacts to biodiversity or social impacts or other things that decrease its sustainability in its whole life cycle. So here we try to avoid or minimize trade-offs as much as possible. Second, when we talk about the infrastructure life cycle, we are not just talking about the life cycle of any single project or asset. While this is of course part of it, the full infrastructure life cycle also includes things that occur upstream of any particular project. Things like the enabling institutional, policy, and the regulatory environment, or the strategic planning and prioritization phases, development project pipelines, and so on and so forth. So these are the underlying concepts of what sustainable infrastructure means. Now I will introduce the international good practice principles for sustainable infrastructure. These are the 10 principles designed to help policymakers take needs-based, systems-level, integrated approaches to planning and delivering sustainable infrastructure. They apply to the whole life cycle, from strategic planning to design, construction operations and decommissioning, but with a strong focus on the enabling policy environment and the planning phases that occur upstream of any single project. They were initiated as a part of UNEP's implementation of the UN Environment Assembly 4 resolution on sustainable infrastructure in 2019. These principles were developed by a working group of about 30 organizations, but I'd like to recognize key contributions from colleagues at the OECD, UNOPS, WWF, IUCN, IADB, and the ILO, as well as the importance of feedback we received from member states during a series of regional consultations on the principles. And of course, we also organized regional consultations in Asia and Pacific and received very valuable feedback from all the member states in the region. The principles were originally published in February 2021. They were endorsed by the UN Environment Management Group in October 2021, and then recognized by all United Nations member states in a new resolution at the 5th UN Environment Assembly in March of this. Yes, the next slide is the 10 principles that form the foundation of the integrated approaches. I will quickly go through them, but we do not have time to go through them one by one. The first one is on the strategic planning that comes the most upstream stage of infrastructure planning. And the second principle is on responsible, resilient, and flexible service provision, that infrastructure needs to be needs-based. The third principle is on comprehensive life cycle assessment of sustainability. The fourth principle is to avoid environmental impacts and invest in natural infrastructure, or we also use the term nature-based solutions. Number 5 is resource efficiency and circularity. Number 6 is equity, inclusiveness, and empowerment. Number 7 is enhancing economic benefits. Number 8 is fiscal sustainability and innovative financing. Number 9 is transparent, inclusive, and participatory decision-making. Number 10 is evidence-based decision-making. So for each principle, we also have a case study in a different country to illustrate how exactly these principles are applied in different countries under different conditions. Here, I would also like to highlight that gender aspects and considerations are not listed as a separate principle, but it is mainstreamed in all the 10 principles. For example, in strategic planning, we have gender aspects of the participation of female and male, equal participation, or in the second, responsive, resilient, and flexible service provision, we also have to consider different genders and their needs and their use of infrastructure. And this is applied in all the principles. And I do recommend that you can go through the 10 principles, the report, and I will share later in the chat box the link to this report. What I would like to highlight in the 10 principles today is the resource efficiency and circularity. This is apparently the most relevant in today's topic, but it does not mean that other principles, for example, strategic planning, needs to be considered less important. On the contrary, we have to consider all of the 10 principles in develop any kind of sustainable infrastructure, and so that also to achieve the circular economy agenda. The next slide shows a very brief snapshot of what resource efficiency and circularity principle entails. The circularity and the use of sustainable technologies and construction materials should be planned and designed into infrastructure systems to minimize their footprints, to reduce emissions, waste, and other pollutants. So there are actually two main aspects of circularity that are relevant to infrastructure. The first is incorporating circularity into infrastructure to increase its resource efficiency and reduce waste, greenhouse gas emissions, and other pollutants. But then on the other side, developing infrastructure in a way that are essential and enables circularity beyond infrastructure itself. For example, waste management infrastructure to enable industrial symbiosis, or energy infrastructure that enables district heating and cooling. The most important three sub-aspects of this principle is to minimize resource use and to close material loops and to use sustainable public procurement incentives to realize. So now I would like to zoom back to the overall 10 principles. So here are a few other aspects that I would have to highlight other than the specific thematic principle of circularity. First, by needs-based, we mean infrastructure planning that uses data to understand the need for services and then considers how to meet those needs most effectively and sustainably, using all available options. Very importantly, These could include alternatives to build new gray infrastructure, things like managing demand, rehabilitating or upgrading existing infrastructure, or investing in natural infrastructure. This is extremely important for minimizing the resource and carbon footprints of infrastructure, since the best way to reduce these is to build less infrastructure. And secondly, the idea of systems level interventions as opposed to project level interventions. This would mean that we have to move further upstream when we start the consideration of sustainability integration into infrastructure, with an emphasis on incorporating this sustainability into the enabling environment and strategic planning phases of the infrastructure lifecycle. The idea here is to consider sustainability as early as possible when more options are politically, economically, and technically feasible. Once you're looking at a specific project, you've already lost the opportunity for incorporating sustainability in upstream. This is also important for circularity because incorporating circularity into infrastructure development to improve resource efficiency and reduce carbon footprints requires certain enabling conditions. For example, to use recycled or repurposed construction materials, they need to be included in building codes and design and engineering specifications. And finally, I talk about integration. Very simply, this means thinking beyond the project, recognizing that infrastructure systems as integrated parts of a larger system, thinking about the interlinkages between different infrastructure systems in different sectors and locations throughout their entire life cycles. This is especially important for designing infrastructure to enable various circular processes, for example, waste to energy, district heating and cooling. And this includes the consideration of nature as infrastructure, accounting for the services it provides and how it interacts with built infrastructure systems. Considering the environmental, social, and economic aspects of sustainability and where the synergies and trade-offs might be. Understanding impacts and benefits of this system of systems at the aggregate level. This means not thinking about negative impacts on the environment from one project, not only thinking about negative impacts on the environment from one project, because of course, the environment or communities have to absorb negative impacts from multiple projects. These types of approaches can lead to infrastructure that better meets users' needs, that is more resilient to risks, and better balances social, environmental, and economic outcomes, and really just represents better investment of the money. This is the end of my overview, but I would like to quickly bring your attention to some other related resources. There are many existing tools and methodologies that other resources for integrating sustainability into infrastructure planning and delivery. So many that the challenge is not a lack of tools, but rather knowing that tools are available, which are right ones to use, and how to use them. We've partnered with German development agency GIZ to develop the sustainable infrastructure tool Navigator that we have developed. This is essentially in a database of tools that different stakeholders can use to integrate sustainability into different phases of the infrastructure lifecycle, but with a user interface that allows them to navigate the database at various parameters, making it easier to match users with the tools they need. And the last slide is, in addition to that, what we have heard consistently from member states are the value of case studies. This training week itself is also structured around a case-based learning approach, which is really an effective learning tool. So the priorities are complemented by the 10 case studies as I introduced earlier, and I also welcome you to read them with real examples. The idea is that these case studies will be the start of a growing database of case studies, and we are already working to add to it and welcome contributions to all partners and all of you, of course. And also we have a community of practice webinar series, and we hope that after this training week, you can join this community and share your own knowledge and experience. And this brings me to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cheng Cheng, for your nice presentations, nice slides, and also very exciting explanations of all the terms, especially on the sustainable infrastructure. I think the audience, we would reserve the time for questionings maybe later stage because the next speaker is already coming. But I think what we have to take notes now is the definitions. You know, the green infrastructure, the gray infrastructure, the combinations, and also the man-made infrastructure. So these have to have it very clear, as Cheng Cheng explained, that what we are going to work on for the future infrastructure and make it more effective and also more sustainable. So that is something that perhaps we have to keep in mind from that definition, which is now, you know, already announced and already explained by UNEP. Secondly, it is holistic. It is integrated, and it is a kind of the whole sub-chains of the development which is relating to sustainability. So what Cheng Cheng has mentioned is that the sustainable infrastructure, which is giving the entry points for circular economy, is not the process of building the things, but also it is the result that we are looking at by consideration of various dimensions and various perspectives when we are planning and designing the infrastructures. So we are looking at the result that make this infrastructure, which is the stakeholders and the user can also join us to make it more sustainable. So that is the keynote, the things that is very, very important that I would ask everyone to keep in mind. And last but not the least, I think the process that Cheng Cheng is introduced and also the tools that UNEP has introduced is going to be very important for us. It means that we will not conclude that this can be applied to every country. This can be applied to local situation or local circumstances, or this can be applied to any cities or so on and so forth. But it can be something to start thinking on the sustainable infrastructure by having the circularity system into it in a more systematic way, so that we can plan for it in a proper way, so that we can make sure that we are leading to the result that, you know, everybody looking for in terms of the circularity concepts at the end of the pipeline of the outcome of the infrastructure development. So we are going to move to the next presenter, which is already here, and Cheng Cheng already mentions that, you know, UNEP already made a lot of research and case study, and one of the case study that UNEP has been, you know, done in a recent past is a case study from Japan, and that case study has been carried out by the Institute for Global Environment Strategies, IGES, and now today we have Sing-Chu to share the experience of the low carbon transportation system in Japan. Sing-Chu, please.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. I'm Sing-Chu, working as research leader of Integrated Center at the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies based in Japan. First, I would like to share my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Thanks to UNEP and AIT for organizing this policy dialogue and training on circular economy and sustainable infrastructure. And today, I would like to talk about a case study on the development of a low-carbon light rail transport system in Utsunomiya City, as an example for achieving the regional circular and ecological sphere in Japan. The case study was developed together with another two case studies in China and the Republic of Korea, and the UNEP's initiative on scaling up circular economy through sustainable infrastructure. As we know that circular economy has been recognized as a means of achieving the aims of the Paris Agreement. and the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Rapid infrastructure expansion in Asia and the Pacific contributes to the rapid economic growth, as well as raising living standards, but also presents a major driver of massive resource extraction, climate change, and pollution. Sustainable infrastructure through decoupling resource and energy use and environmental damages in the whole life cycle is key for circular economy. COVID-19 recovery and SDG implementation provide a great opportunity for achieving sustainable infrastructure and a circular economy. Under the UNEP's initiative on scaling up circular economy through sustainable infrastructure, case studies in China, Japan, and Korea was conducted. And today, I would like to talk about the case study in Japan. First, I would like to give some backgrounds on building regional circular and ecological sphere, RCES, in Japan. Japan is now facing multiple social, economic, and environmental challenges. These include declining birth rates and aging population, and even distribution of population with high density in a few big cities, which weaken the local economic growth. These demographic issues also caused abandoned cultivated land, poorly maintained forest, and loss of nature-rich areas, such as Satoyama and biodiversity. In the fifth basic environment plan, which was formulated in 2018, the RCS concept was proposed as a new growth model aiming at building an environmentally sound and economically viable sphere through the circulation of natural resources, human resources, and financial resources across neighboring regions. RCES is a circular and ecological economy and regional level aiming at revitalizing regional economy, creating new businesses and jobs, and improving human well-being. Circularity is achieved through the circulation of local resources, such as natural resources, human resources, and financial resources across different administrative regions. More specifically, mountainous agriculture and fishing villages provide natural resources to the cities, including food, water, timber, and renewable energy, as well as relevant ecological systems services, such as water purification and prevention from natural disasters. Cities, on the other hand, through consumption of the products provided by the rural areas and providing human resources and financial resources, support the production and natural conservation activities, such as ecotourism in the rural areas. Through such collaborations among regions based on the characteristics of each region, a self-reliant and decentralized new economic development model will be achieved through local production for local consumption and strengthening the partnerships between rural areas and cities by building natural and economic connections. Japan developed the national policies for building a circular economy through the promotion of 3 Rs: adaptive, reduce, reuse, and recycle, and resource efficiency improvement. Here I would like to mention 2 national plans which incorporate the concepts of a sound mature cycle society and RCES. One is the 4th fundamental plan for establishing a sound mature cycle society. Another is the 5th basic environment plan. Based on Japan's Basic Act on establishing a sound mature cycle society in 2000, fundamental plans for establishing a sound mature cycle society were formulated and implemented, showing substantial improvement in resource productivity and recycling rates, as well as significant reduction in final disposal. The two figures here show the material flow in fiscal year 2000 and 2017, from which we can see that the total material use in Japan became slim with less imports and less input from domestic natural resources, less waste generation, but more recycled, leading to greatly reduced final disposal. The fourth fundamental plan formulated in 2018 incorporated economic and social considerations to address the existing challenges and reflect innovations and technologies such as ICT, IoT, and AI. Based on Japan's Basic Environmental Act in 1993, the first Basic Environment Plan was issued in the next year and revised in every 6 years. The latest one, the fifth Basic Environment Plan in 2018, provides a new growth model based on the concept of RCES, aiming at developing a self-reliant and decentralized society in Japan by leveraging regional natural resources and strengthening the collaborations across neighboring regions. The fifth Basic Environment Plan covers 6 cross-cutting priority strategies, including building a green economy for achieving sustainable consumption and production, improving the value of lands, sustainable community development based on local resources, realizing a healthy and prosperous life, technology development and dissemination, and strengthening Japan's leadership through international collaboration and building strategic partners. Supported by the national government, many local governments have explored ways of RCES implementation and developed pilot projects. Their practices can be summarized into 3 areas. The first area is the development and utilization of renewable energy for local consumption, all through cross-regional electricity transmission from the areas with rich renewable energy resources to the areas with less natural endowment, but with high energy demand. One example is the partnership agreement on renewable energy supply signed by Yokohama City together with other 12 cities. Another area is building recycling systems and utilization of local recyclable resources such as livestock manure, food waste, storage, sludge, plastics, and metals. One example is biogas and hydrogen produced from livestock manure in Shikaoi town, Hokkaido, to provide energy. The third area is utilization of natural endowments, including clean water, clean air, food, natural resources, and unique cultures supported by various ecosystem services from forests, village, rivers, sea. One example is organic farming and organic food production in Ogawa town in Saitama Prefecture. The low-carbon light rail transit system in Utsunomiya City, which I will introduce, falls into the first area. The case study to be introduced is on RCES and sustainable transport system in Utsunomiya City, which is located as the center of Tochigi Prefecture and about 100 kilometers north of Tokyo. The population is declining due to low birth rate and aging population, with a peak of 52,000 in 2018 and a projected decrease to 55,026. Every day, more than 50,000 people commute from neighboring cities to this city, and about more than 40,000 people travel out of the city for work and education. The figure shows the existing transport system, including number 4, Tohoku Shinkansen, the high-speed railway lines. Number 5, the Japan Railway Tohoku line, Utsunomiya line. number 6, Tobu Utsunomiya Railway Line, and the subway systems, number 7, Tohoku Expressway, and number 7, Nikko Utsunomiya Road, and 9, Kitakanto Expressway. Most of the existing transport systems run through the city from north to south, but very limited development from east to west. The city transportation is facing many challenges. With the decreasing and aging population, the overall demand for transportation will decrease, together with a decrease in transportation for commuting, but an increase for going to hospitals and shopping. Tourism has gradually increased, but more than 60% of tourists travel on their foot, with very low utilization of the public transportation. For transportation within the city, automobiles has increased to 69%, and public transportation, including railways and buses, has decreased. The connections for public transportation and between different means of public transportation were inconvenient. And also the bus fares for traveling within the city are pretty high, particularly for senior citizens. The GHG emissions from the city was more than 4 billion metric tons of CO2 in 2015, mainly generated from industrial sector, transport sector, and commercial sectors. Mitigating the GHG emissions from transport sector is a big challenge for the sector. The light rail transit LRT system in Utsunomiya City was developed since June 2018 to address the challenges faced with the local transport sector, and was selected as one of the model projects by the Ministry of the Environment in Japan for the promotion of RCES. The LRT is the next generation public transport system powered by local renewable energy generated from biomass. The LRT project, including connected public transport systems, will introduce mass mobility as a service and the case, IoT and AI-based connection, autonomous driving, sharing, and electrification to make mobility more comfortable and convenient, but with less carbon emissions. The LRT system will also link various functional areas in the city, including the central urban areas, which is indicated as A in the figure, the residential areas of B, industrial parks, C, and tourism areas, D. There are many benefits from LRT system. The LRT system has a strategic position in the 6th Utsunomiya City Comprehensive Plan and the 2nd Utsunomiya City Transport Strategy for achieving a network type of compact city. With improved services and enhanced connections with other public transport systems, the LRT system will enable access for everyone, particularly for the senior citizens. It will also contribute to achieving multiple SDG targets, including Sustainable Transport System, Target 11.2, Sustainable Infrastructure, Target 9.1, Promotion of Renewable Energy, Target 7.2, Decarbonization, Target 13.2, Sustainable Tourism, Target 8.9, Sustainable Industrial Development, Target 9.2, Revitalization of Local Economy, Target 8.1, Job Creation, Targets 8.5 and 8.6, Sustainable Urban Development, Target 11.3, Waste Reduction on Target 12.5, and Public Participation in Community Development, Target 17.7. The figure on the right shows the SDG interlinkages of Target 11.2 on Sustainable Transport System and Target 9.1 on Sustainable Infrastructure with other targets. This is visualized by using IGES SDG interlinkages analysis tool. For local energy circulation and revitalization of local economy, Utsunomiya City is rich in renewable energy resources. The main renewable energy produced in the city includes biomass power generation and residential solar power generation. And currently, on two facilities, one is on the solid waste incineration, and the other is on sewage treatment facility operated for biomass power generation with a total capacity of more than 8,000 kilowatts. In addition, the city has promoting the introduction of residential solar PV generation by using abundant sunshine in winter. To promote local energy circulation, a local new power company was established in 2021. With the expiration of feed-in tariff system in November 2019, the local new power company will purchase electricity generated from the biomass power generation plants and sell to the public facilities. The energy generated will be used by public facilities, including public transport, such as LRT operation, LRT transit centers, and green slow mobility in tourism areas, as well as the schools and hospitals and the evacuation shelters in the event of a disaster. To help analyze the economic circularity of RCES, an online tool, namely Regional Economy Society Analyzing Tool, ReSUS, was developed to provide data and relevant analysis on the structure of regional economy and capital flows for about 1,800 administrative units in Japan, including prefectures, cities, towns, and villages. The level of economic circularity in Utsunomiya City was shown in this figure, and RCES rate was calculated by dividing the total production, the value added, by the total distribution, the incomes. A high level indicates high economic circularity of regional economy. And for Utsunomiya City, we can see that the regional economic circularity rate was more than 120, greatly more than 100%. For successful promotion of RIT as a means for low-carbon public transportation, the national government provides various supports. RIT Promotion Committee, comprising private companies, local government, NPOs, and national government, including the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, MLIT, and the Public Safety Commission, which develops the RIT project implementation plan. MLIT provides financial support for the implementation of the RIT projects, which cover infrastructure construction, including railways, relevant roads, stations, and other space arrangement, improvement of operation and management systems, such as the speed setting and route testing, improvement of convenience, including the introduction of IC system and connections with other transport systems, revitalization of the station areas and transit centers, and the parking areas for private automobiles and bicycles. The national government provides financial support to both the local government and private companies, which covers 50% for local government and 1/3 for private companies of their total cost for the implementation of the RRT projects. To conclude, the RRT project, as one of the model projects for the promotion of RCES, will increase public transportation in urban areas, revitalize the central urban area, reduce environmental impacts, and ensure convenient mobility for the elderly and those with difficulties in mobility. Some other similar LRT projects are under development in many other cities in Japan, which can learn the experiences from this project in Utsunomiya City. A couple of important factors for the development of sustainable infrastructure based on this study can be drawn up. Development of a sustainable infrastructure based on a shared long-term vision or relevant governmental development plans and strategies is very important. Linking infrastructure projects with other services, activities, and urban planning to create multiple synergies beyond the individual construction projects is key to maintaining economic sustainability. Governmental financial support for nurturing the development of new models and innovations is important to promote pioneer projects. Thank you very much.
You hear me now, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Shinshu, for your presentation of this case study in Japan, and we are really we feel that this is very useful. We are going to entertain some one or two questions from the audience, but I would like to a bit of summarize or kind of highlight the things that Dr. Shinshu has been explained. By the way, this case study is available in the UNEP reports on the sustainable infrastructure that you will get the colorful also electronic copies later on. But believe me, the case study available in these reports, and we also translate this report. I mean, not we means UNEP also translate this report into several languages. As I remember, it is originally in English, it is in Bahasa, it is in Vietnamese, it is in Thai, and many more. Okay, so I'm sure for those who are comfortable in reading English, you will be benefit a lot from these things, and also the case that presented by Dr. Shinshu is also available there. I would like to highlight the message that put that into the report, which is, I believe that this will be very useful. RCES, or the regional, circular, and ecological sphere, is beyond the scope of material flow, circulation, and waste reduction. It is the idea for building environmentally sound and economically viable sphere through the circulation of the natural resources, human resources, and financial resources across the neighboring regions. So you can see that the integrations, the multi-sectoral, and also the multi-dimensions and co-management is beyond a management that we are doing in many countries today. So taking this concept of the RCES, showing a very good the approach of integration, the approach of working together with the private sectors and also local stakeholders, and also the approach of carrying the communities, carrying the environment as a result of the circular economy, which is leading to sustainability. So this is very important. So from now on, please, we invite two questions for the audience. So please raise your hand so we can address your name so that you can ask the question slowly, and I will invite Cheng Cheng and Dr. Shinshu to address the questions. Please, audience, if any question. You can use microphone. We can also control your microphone to on your microphone. And the audience, feel free to ask, feel free to raise. This very informal discussion, so nothing very formal here. We already passed, the opening ceremony, which is very formal ceremonial things, but now it's open discussion. I mean, while waiting for the question, I would like to ask Dr. Shinshu with regard to, when is this private sector? So you say that in this city, you also invite the private sector to come in, and they are willing to contribute 1/3 of the investment there. So how you draw their attention and how you make them pay, how the government make them pay.
And so basically, the development of this Rrt system is based on the private and public partnership, the PPP. So actually, the private companies are directly involved in the construction and implementation of this project.
That's very interesting answer. So we involve them at the regulatory level, at the policy level, and that is a prescription that the PPP have to be there, so that we invite them at the beginning. So audience, any question, please? Your question will be very helpful, because this, as I said, we are part of the think tank that we are going to address this issue to help our developing countries to perhaps raise the future policies on circular economy in infrastructures in a more doable manner. So audience, yes, Vanessa, Pam, please. Yes, Kun Pam. Kun Pam, you're on mute. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I have a question for Dr. Sindro. I have been involved in urban planning for over the last 25 years, but not continuously. But at that time, the whole world, I think everyone mentioned that we need to have the balanced development between the urban and rural area. That's why we try to, at that time, we talk a lot about the satellite city, which is trying to attract more urban people come back to the rural area in order to avoid the complexity in the rural area, in the urban area. And after a while, I have, disconnect or discontinue with that field and turn into the other field. But now I'm still concerning on, because after at least 20 or 25 years, people still keep talking about urban development, and even in your case study still mentioned about the sustainable development for urban infrastructure. And why not rural infrastructure? Because what I noticed, even I'm not in that field, but not really isolated, but I still know that we are still keep talking about urban development, but not rural development. And it seems that, I'm sorry to say, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm sorry to say, like, we are still a little bit behind on whatever actually happened in the world. I can give many examples. For example, in Vietnam now, the urban people don't want to stay in urban area anymore. And they start buying a lot of land in the rural or even in highland area to do their farming or to do their farming, to a kind of farm stay, okay? But they develop by themselves and not in the sustainable way at all. And we didn't see any policy involved in that, even though we see that in the good resource of developing agriculture and tourism, but there is no infrastructure there. So where is the policy goals?
Yeah.
We really behind the actual things happen in the world, and that is my question. That I'm still feel like we behind everything happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you explain or could you update for me what was going on and why we still more focus on urban, which is we isolated rural area? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Sinchu, please.
Thank you very much for the very, I think, important and practical issue. I'm not a particular expert for urban planning, but you are, I think, and you raised this very, I think, practical issue.
Yes.
And I think based on my very preliminary knowledge about urban rural areas, I think this is also a very big issue in Japan, a very aging society, and also with the uneven distribution of population, because in many it's not like rural areas, but also in some remote areas from the metropolitan areas, that the local economic growth has been stagnant because of low birth rate and lack of young labor force, and also many young people, they leave their local place to move to the large cities. And I think this is one of the challenge Japan is facing, and also one of the purpose of the proposing this RCS to help solve this problem. So this actually try to bring some vitalization of the local economic opportunity to the remote areas or to the rural areas by tapping the untapped resources, particularly the natural resources and ecological system services, to create more opportunities and to attract more young people to locate in the region and try to improve the local economic development. So for the infrastructure, I think with more kind of vitalized economic development at the local area, it can attract more investments in the infrastructure sector. I think maybe this is the cycle, and it takes time to realize it.
Pam, thank you very much for your question. This is something to think about. Actually, you have raised a very interesting point of the rural-urban relations, and also why we have to start from the urban ecosystem. Why not the rural ecosystem services? So that is a good question to think about the further days. We have two questions. We have two participants raised two hands. Let me see. So let me go by maybe we first hand I saw. Masud Rahman, yes, I'm familiar with you. Masud, please. Quick question, please.
Hey, Joe. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So last month we have been there in EIT, and we are lucky that we get another chance to meet at least through online. So thank you for this nice session. So I'm wondering whether this is directly related to this topic or not, but the thing that came to my mind is that you know that in my country the capital city is Dhaka, and in most of the Asian country, what we see that the capital and or maybe one or two mega cities that are mostly industrially developed or structurally those are sound to make business or to for the policy level or the government level offices are mostly in those cities. So here what we see in the case study, that in the case study they have taken some plan for the Tokyo cities. But my question is, how can we expand the structure and other facilities to other cities? Because a country like Bangladesh, it is mostly dependent on the agriculture and some other side as well. But agriculture is the backbone of a country like us and some other Asian country as well. But most of the cases, what we see that although the local entrepreneur or the young entrepreneur, they are taking initiative from their local areas to do something new in the agriculture sector or coming to the business with agriculture or any farming type of things, but they are facing challenges like the airports, the other facilities that the mega cities or the capital have. Those are not available in the other cities. Like in our country, we have only 2 international airports in Chittagong and in Dhaka as well. So is there any plan or any suggestion? How can we increase the facilities to give more urban facilities to the rural areas or to other provinces? So I think that's the question from my.
Thank you. So Dr. Sinsu, I think first thing that he asked is is about how we are going to replicate. Is that from case study? Japan government has any plan or strategies to replicate or to scale up this into more areas in Japan? And how they do it?
So maybe I may not directly address your questions, but I would like to mention a couple of things here. So actually, in Japan, because you mentioned Tokyo, because particularly in Tokyo, the residents have been decreased because the land value is very high in Tokyo, and the living in Tokyo is very expensive. And because of these convenient transport systems connected with the surrounding cities, actually many people who are working in Tokyo, they live in some other cities, but commuting every day. So actually, it also has been a kind of issue for the Tokyo metropolitan government, thinking about how to attract residents come back to Tokyo area. So actually, I think this kind of dynamics, first, congested in metropolitan, but later on to move outside of it, then, yeah, so maybe the next generation. So the dynamics are there. So it's not only one trend of the development. And also, there's also a kind of considerations of moving some governmental and the central governmental functions to other local areas. For example, the Ministry of Culture already moved to Nara city. So this kind of movement of governmental functions or organizations to other surrounding or other remote areas is also a kind of a way to not make Tokyo and other metropolitan areas more, concentrated with financial resources, with population, and with other facilities. I think airports maybe it's very special infrastructure, and usually I think, and also it's efficient for the development in some big cities. Hope I addressed your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me, by the way? Yes, thank you for the question and for the answers. We also see the 3 questions on the chat box from colleagues, and also Dorothy, we will please reserve your question for the next one. So we are going to move forward with the next speaker because we are cautious of time. But definitely at the end of the speaking, then we will have a time for further question and answer.
So first of all, I would like to thank you, UNEP and AIT, that invite UNIDO to speak in this session. And as an AIT alumni, it's my pleasure to be here again. So today I present on the topic of driving circular economy through eco-industrial development in Thailand. So we will share the experience of our project in Thailand that contribute to the circular economy. Actually, what our project have done is not the new issues. We deal with the resource efficiency, we deal with the cleaner production, industrial symbiosis. You might be familiar with this kind of wording. So we didn't reinvent the wheel, but we just look through the things for the industry through the circular economy lens. So let me start with the questions. You can join me to answer this question. I type the link in the chat box. So this is dementi.com. You can join me for the question. Let me switch the screen first. This one. Okay. So this is the questions. Okay. My first question is, how many mobile phones have you used? Okay, we have some answer for this. I think you used to use Dementi. You can just scan the QR code, click the link, or put the code here. I think I used my first mobile phone since Nokia something, the very early model in Thailand. How many years? Almost 30 years, actually. So I cannot remember that how many phones I have used, but it should be more than 5. So some have used only 1, and some have used more than 5. Okay, you just get the idea. And I have the next question, which is very important. The next question is, how often do you buy a new phone? Every less than 1 year, every 1 year, 2 years, more than 2 years. More than 2 years. I have asked this question with for the audience in one training. Most of them change the new phone every 1 to 2 years. But we have a very environmental concerned audience who have changed the mobile phone every more than 2 years. Okay, so most of us change the mobile phone, not quite frequent. We use our old phone more than 2 years. Then the question is, why do you change your phone? Because you want a newer model, because your phone is out of date, or your battery is just gone. I mean, you have to charge your phone every half a day or every few hours after using. So what happened? Why do you change your phone? You don't have to answer, just keep it in mind. So let me go back to my presentation. Share. Yes, some say that because the old one was out of order, and there is one of many reasons people change the phone. Because you attend this training, I will assume that we are environmental concerned about, we concerned about our environment, and with our knowledge for the circular economy, we didn't change the phone quite often, but we have to change it. But we have to change it anyway, right? So some say that we change it because our old phone out of order, the battery is gone, and some want a new mobile phone. Actually, it's not just us. It's on for it depends on another size too. So you may be familiar with this butterfly diagram or the system diagram developed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So I won't go into detail. Actually, we have 2 sides of the diagram, one for the finite materials and one for the renewable one. And from our example for the phone, actually we can keep using our phone. We can maintain it, prolong it, change the battery, or some might use a refurbished model, but it's not that easy. It's not depend on us. Not wholly depends on us who can choose. Do we want to change the phone or we want to keep the old one? Actually, it also depends on the manufacturer or the service provider. So from the C diagram, you will see that there are two sides of interaction. The first one is the manufacturer or service provider and the user and the consumer. Another one is the manufacturer, service provider interact between themselves. And our project in Thailand and focus of this presentation, we will look at the manufacturer, the service provider interact with themselves and also interact with the community. So we didn't deal with the individual, we deal with the group of people as the community. And UNIDO's approach to support the Thai industrial sector from this project, we have three approaches. The first one is the resource efficiency and cleaner production. You might be familiar with this word for the resource efficient and the cleaner production. As I mentioned, it's not new. Actually, for Thailand, we have implemented the cleaner production, cleaner technology, or green production, I think for more than 30 years. And we are still on it for the resource efficiency and cleaner production. So our approach, first we start with the factory. As I mentioned, for the circular economy, it's not totally depend on the user. It also depend on the manufacturer. So if we want to handle the circular economy, we have to focus with the manufacturer as well. So the first part of this approach, we focus on the industry itself inside the factory. But even the factory try to minimize their waste, try to use the resource efficiently, they still have waste. It's difficult to avoid waste. So we try to promote them to do the waste exchange. Actually, as we know, the waste from the byproduct from one factory can be the raw material or the substance for another factories. Waste heat for this factory is not useful, but for another factory, they can use it. And then not just that, for the industry urban symbiosis, we believe that the industry and the urban can also exchange the waste. For example, if we have the waste from the factory, the community nearby can use the waste or the byproduct to produce some products that they can sell. And as well, for the industry, they can use the waste from the urban. For example, just think like in our house, we can do the waste management, we can segregate our waste, and then those waste can be recycled. And after leftover, we recycle what we can do. We use the organic waste to do something else, to produce, to generate energy. The rest go to landfill. And even for the landfill, right now we have the technology to do the RDF, to use it as the fuel for the waste to energy plant. From this concept, this in line with the Thai government's eco-industrial development approach. So our project, we also support the Thai government for the IECP that in line with the eco-factory is factory level and the industry symbiosis. Industry, the resource efficiency approach plus the waste exchange, the sharing of infrastructure, that's going to be the eco-industrial part. Then If we plus the interaction between the community, the sharing of some infrastructure, and also the waste exchange between the urban and the industry, that's going to be eco-industrial town in Thai concept. So let me explore each concept to you. The first one, eco-factory. The eco-factory criteria is developed by IEAT Industrial Estate Authority of Thailand together with the Federation of Thai Industry. So the IW Department of Industrial Work has a different scheme on eco-factory. They call it Eco-Factory plus SB. You might be a little bit confused now, but that will lead to what we found, the challenges, and also the enable factor that we need to drive the eco-industrial development in Thailand. So at the factory level, we have two criteria, two schemes. The first one developed by IEAT and FTI. The second one developed by Department of Industrial Work. Even they are quite similar, there's still some different. Both schemes aim to promote the sustainable development through resource efficiency. Or the other certification program. This is the prerequisites. So after that, they will audit the factory on the eco-efficiency side. So this is resource efficiency, how the factory manage their raw material, the energy saving, water usage, wastewater, air pollution, greenhouse gas, waste, chemical and waste. That's for example. They also include the social indicators in their criteria. So in short, eco-factory, they focus on resource efficiency and also the social criteria. These schemes, both owned by IEAT and FTI and the DIW, they aim to promote resource efficiency as well as the reuse and recycle at plant level. And the eco-industrial park and so on. Initially, they don't have the criteria for eco-industrial park and so on. Right now, they try to develop the criteria or the scheme for the eco-industrial park and so on. And this will be the plant level plus the sharing infrastructure and the industrial symbiosis. What I mean by industrial symbiosis is both infrastructure sharing and also the waste exchange between the industry. And the third level is eco-industrial town. There are two schemes owned by Department of Industrial Work and the Industrial Estate Authority of Thailand. The Industrial Estate Authority of Thailand, they scope the boundary that the eco-industrial town in their definition is industrial estate plus 5 kilometers around the industrial estate. But for the IW, this is the specific area in the province that they announced under the Department of Industrial Work announcement. For the IEAT, they have a set of criteria and then they certificate the industrial estate in 3 levels: Eco Champion, Eco Excellence, and Eco World Class. For the IW, they separated into 5 levels: engagement, enhancement, resource efficiency, symbiosis, and happiness. And in short, the eco-industrial town is at the plant level plus industrial symbiosis plus industry-urban symbiosis. So the economic and the social criteria have been included for the eco-industrial town. Let me back to this diagram. Oops. Okay. So now we have the eco-factory level, we have the eco-industrial park level, and then we have the eco-industrial town. I believe that you might be familiar with the eco-industrial park wording because UNIDO together with World Bank and and also the IGS. We published the publication named that the International Framework on Eco-Industrial Park. So we have pilot many projects in many countries for the eco-industrial park, and China, South Korea, Japan also have their own eco-industrial park and their own not criteria but maybe the guideline. So for in Thailand, we aim quite ambitious. So not only factory level and the park level, we also try to promote the eco-industrial town. Then to put it this way, we have the different level, and the government try to promote this, and the government think that the eco-industrial town scheme can support the circular economy. They support the waste exchange. They support the waste exchange between the factory and the community, and they promote the resource efficiency. So everything on the right-hand side of the butterfly diagram, and also some of the left-hand side, which is the renewable side. What support they have done? They provide policy and plan to support. They established the institutional framework to drive the eco-industrial development in Thailand. They provide technical support, but I put partly here in the title, because even with the support, the eco-industrial development in Thailand is not fully success as they want. So let's go into detail for each support that the government provide. The first, this concept, the eco-industrial town, initiated by the cabinet decision in 2012. So right now it's a decade already, 10 years. And the target of the eco-industrial town also stated in the 20-year national strategy. So that make the eco-industrial town is the national agenda. It's not just the Ministry of Industry, it's a national agenda. The target and also the measures are specified in the National Economic and Social Development Plan, the previous plan and the upcoming plan, the 13. The government has developed the Eco-Industrial Town Master Plan, and right now they are working on the 5-year Eco-Industrial Town Action Plan. They have the institutional framework to support the driving of the eco-industrial town in Thailand. At the national level, the cabinet have the decision. They have the National Industry Development Committee as a national who make a decision on the industrial issue and as well as the eco-industrial development. And at the central level, they have the committee to acceleration the eco-industrial town development. And at the provincial level, they have the provincial committee. The governor of each province will chair this committee. And they have the local committee, which also include the representative from the community and from the local authority. So based on this diagram, you see that at the national, central, provincial, and local, we all have the committee to drive the eco-industrial development. They also provide the technical support for the training course. Actually, yes, absolutely, it's free. Yes, and the all excuse me, and the online learning. On the right-hand side, there is the website that provide the free online learning. They also provide the consulting service, and this is also free. So auditing service, free as well. As we see here, the government try to promote the eco-industrial development. They put a lot of budget on this through the Department of Industrial Work, through the Industrial Estate Authority of Thailand, and to the provincial level. But we still have some challenges. The first one is the legislation. The second one is the ecosystem. And the third one is the capacity issue. Let me explain for the first one, legislation. Even the government try to promote the waste exchange among industry or even the industry and the community. Actually, the waste management, especially the waste management in Thailand, we have the control system. So the industry have to register and have to ask for the permission to transport the industrial waste out to outside the industry. It's not, I mean, if you want the waste from company A, you cannot just, okay, hey, I want the waste and I want to buy some. You cannot do it freely. There is a legislation, so you have to request for the permission to transport the waste from company A to your company. That's quite complicated. And for the ecosystem that I mean is the whole things, even the auditing system, the consulting service, and the reporting system, and also the budgeting, everything that to drive the eco-industrial development. Yes, the government provides the support, but it's just partly. They have policy, they have the committee, and they want to drive the development and to promote the circular economy. But what really happened is the committee at the provincial level and at the local level who actually drive the projects, the small project that combine together to drive the eco-industrial development town. They don't have budget. Those budget they have to put together and request through the provincial level budget and the capacity. So this is also an issue. Even we want the waste exchange, even we want to promote the circular economy, we want to promote the eco factory, and I mean to promote everything. They provide the online learning, yes, but the actual capacity of the implementator, they still have the limited capacity. So based on our projects, we have conduct a lot of stakeholder meetings and try to identify what we can help to promote the eco-industrial development and try to mobilize it more smooth than the current situation. So these are three key enabling factors that we can identify. The first one is legislation and policy. The second one, capacity and awareness and communication. And the third one is very important, the collaboration. So for the legislation and policy, the big issue is to support waste exchange. We have to find the balance between the control and the facilitate. Even we have like the market platform to support the waste exchange. We call it a Circular Material Hub. We developed together with the FTI, the Federation of Thai Industry, that Circular Material Hub allow the factory who want the waste and the one who want to buy the waste meet together. It's not that easy because for the legislation, as I explained, the factory are not allowed to transport the waste from company A to company B. They have to transport the waste to the facility who have the specific license to manage the waste, to dispose of the waste, to treat the waste. So we are still working on it. The second one is to provide the actual motivation. Even the government have a policy, put it in the plan, but that's still lack of the actual motivation. The factory keep asking, why do we have to do the eco factory? Why do we have to certify the eco factory? Why we have to be part of the eco industrial park to make our factory better and to certify, and a part of the town to support the town to be the eco industrial town. Because if you want to be the eco industrial town, some certain factories have to be certified as the eco factory. So there's the question from the factory, why do they have to do that? It's correct that for the resource efficient, they can save some money from the energy saving, water saving, and also minimize waste. But what is the actual motivation, actual benefit that the government will give them? Their good guide. What was the reward? And also for the town level, what would be the reward for the governor, for the committee, if they want to improve the quality of their town to meet the eco-industrial development criteria? What would be the benefit? And to lessen burden. Right now, the eco-industrial development town. So is it the burden for the committee that is like the extra work? Yes, the government has the order to set up to establish the committee. They have to do that, but it depends on the chairperson. Right now, some provinces still think that that's quite a burden for them to implement the eco-industrial development town and to provide budget. We have only the same budget, the original amount of the budget, and you have to fight on it. It's not, I mean, if there is a guarantee that if you implement the eco-industrial development town plan, you will have the certain budget, or you will have the what to call, you will access to the special budget. That is the motivation. Right now, they still have to fight on their own for the budget. For the second enabling factors is capacity, awareness, and communication. We need to build up the capacity at the local level to raise the awareness at the management level. How can we motivate the governor and also the management of the factory to participate in this kind of program, and to broaden the communication at all levels. And the last enabling factors is the collaboration. You will see that in the institutional framework diagram, there are many levels, there are many committees. Even they say that they want to integrate, they want the integration, they want the collaboration work, but the collaboration in the real life is not happen easily. So if they can enhance the collaboration, the actual collaboration, that will make everyone's life easier. And that will also to establish the practical ecosystem. So right now, for example, the factory, they are two scheme now. There is the waste of the budget. If they can combine the scheme, they can use the same auditing system. Why we have to have two systems for the same thing? That is an example. And that's what I want to mention, to efficiently use the limited resources, people, money, and time. and to provide the budget. For the collaboration, if they can collaborate, they can use less money, and they can also have the budget. For more information, this is some website. I can type it into the in the chat. I will do it later. So this is the more information for the eco-industrial development in Thailand and also for the project. And as I mentioned, sorry, UNIDO together with World Bank and the GIZ, we published the International Framework for Eco-Industrial Park. This is the second version, and UNIDO also published a lot of publications to support the Eco-Industrial Park. You can download this document from their website. I will put it on the chat. And this is the website of our project, and we have 5 years project. Right now, we are in the second years. So we wish that at the end of the project, we can support the Thai government to implement the eco-industrial work and eco-industrial development. And as I mentioned, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We try to support the government to do what they have done previously, but through the lens of the circular economy. Thank you.
These information sharings helped me to recall when I had a chance to visit industrial parks, and they have been doing a lot of the industrial parks in Thailand, especially because I'm in Thailand. And I can recall that when you talk about the clean technology as the first step 30 years ago, and it's coming to the exchange, interaction between industry to industry, business to business, and then expand to the community. So that is something that is really giving some idea of how we are going to have a ladders of the progress that the countries may like to use it so that they can go by step by step. That is something which is very, very interesting. I have one questions. Maybe this also for the audience. Before the audience would ask some questions, maybe 2 or 3 questions. Is about the interest of the foreign investor to open the industry in the industrial zone. Is there any difficulties if we are setting as the eco park, and the foreign investor might see that they have to put more money to invest because they have follow compliance and also the clean technologies and also the ecosystem there? So will this, having kind of supporting the investment to come to the countries, or it is maybe giving a kind of a hesitation of the investor to open the factory because there is a lot of burden in terms of the cost to the industry in terms of these ecosystem applications?
Thank you for the questions. And I think that's a good question, burden and the investment. And based on my experience that I have worked with the factory and the industrial sector, I believe that what the industrial sector afraid is the feedback from the community. And as we know, if we track back to the situation in 19 something, I cannot remember the year, the map that put, the Thai government has to suspend 76 projects because of the environmental issues and because of the community filed the case to the court, and the court suspend the projects, and that is the big change for, I would call it the environmental tipping point for Thailand. And after that, I think most of the industrial sector realize that if they don't have the permission from the community, they don't have the permission from the society, they cannot run their business. So eco-industrial park, we would consider it as the support, not the burden, because for the eco-industrial park, the park owner have to follow some certain criteria. I mean, environmental, social, and also economic, to ensure that the industry can live together with the community. And I mean, they can share their benefit, not just only the benefit from the factory's benefit, but also for the community's benefit. And the resource efficiency that they try to promote also help the factory to save the money. And at the same time, also increase the environmental quality, air pollution, lessen air pollution, lessen wastewater issues, and also to support the society and the community as a whole for the social benefit that they share.
Thank you. Audience, you have any questions? Please raise your hand and feel free to switch on your speaker. Something like this. I mean, I recall what Cheng Cheng presented a while ago, that about the a pathway to the sustainabilities. So many things that discussed in these presentations by Dr. Uma also give another example of this could be a pathway to go for the sustainable infrastructures by having the circularity principle in there. And perhaps this package of the economic zone, special economic zone, is another possibility, I would say, another possibility that if we would like to pilot or start some of the circularity concept in sustained infrastructure, is another perhaps pathway, which is we also heard about the pathway of using the urban transportations in Japan by IGAS over there. So my colleagues, audience, before we move to the next activities, feel free to switch on your mic. And yes, Upanda, please.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Uma, for your presentation. I have one question. I'm Upenda from National Cleaner Production Center. So I have one question that I saw. It's an eco factory. I guess it's a certification from IEAT or DIW programs. Is it a certification, or if so, who will control it? Who will assure the eco factory certification for industries? Could you please give further information about that program?
Okay. Yes. Thank you for the questions. So yes, we are on the same network, the IECP network. The Eco Factory, actually, let me share my screen again. Okay. So for the Eco Factory, sorry that it is in Thai, but let me explain this. This part, the eco-efficiency, is based on the resource efficiency concept. So mostly they deal with the raw material management, the energy saving, the wastewater, the water management and saving, and also other issues. So for the Eco Factory, the scheme that they provide, that IEAT and FTI provide the certification scheme, they would like to promote the resource efficiency in the industrial sector. So if the industry can prove that they have some certain level of the improvement, so this is the scheme of the management scheme. quite similar to the ISO 14001, but more emphasized on the efficiency, the result efficiency part. So if the factory have their own plan and then they say that they want to improve the water efficiency for how much, the energy efficiency for how much, and then if they pass that auditing, and then they will give they will be awarded by the certificate from the IAT and FTI.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next question, Chakwat. Akawat, please. Akawat Lim.
Hi, I'm Akrawat. I have one question. How the role of recycles help and support the eco-industrial estate? Because it seems that we don't see the role of recycles in your presentation. Thank you.
Actually, let me put it this way. For the eco-industrial park level and also the eco-industrial town level, they try to promote the recycle and also the reuse and the recycle among the industry and the urban and the industry. At the eco-factory level, they're going to be focused on the reuse and recycle at plant level. So the recycle factory, let's put it this way, the dismantling, the waste recycle, and also the waste disposal, the waste treatment facility will play a role at the eco-industrial park level and also the eco-industrial town. But as I mentioned, we have some limitation on the legislation, and I believe that it's not only Thailand. Based on our review, not only Thailand, other countries also have the same problems. As I mentioned, we have to try to find the balance between the control and the facilitate. If we allow the industry to transport the waste, some certain of waste freely, for example, the mollard. You may know the mollard is the waste from the sugar plant. So that is from the sugar cane. Then they have some mollard is from the brewery, the factory. So the mollard can use as the energy source, and then they can use for the source of the fertilizer. So they have many usage of mollard. But if you want to transport mollard from the factory, you need a permission from the Department of Industrial Work. So there is some limitation. And even the recycle plant, if you want to recycle something from the industry, for example, if you want to use the sludge from the iron and steel factory, which may have the iron and steel inside the sludge, and the recycle factory can do something with it. You need the permission to transport those waste. And we may not say that is the recycle. You may be a bit for the recycle plant, for something that we can see quite obvious, that is one issue. And the specific plant who can recycle some specific industrial waste, for example, some type of used acid, some type of used chemical, those also we call it the recycle plant as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Habib. We are coming to you soon, Habib. But this is something very interesting. We legislative is things that we are discussing, and it seems that the flow of the ideas or the flow of the implementation has been kind of blocked by the legislation. So something to think about. This legislation is a very thick part which we have to crack it. So how we crack it, that we have to think further. So Habib, please.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Uma, for your nice presentation. As your presentation, as per my understanding, that you talk a lot about how to promote eco-industrial park and establish a eco-industrial park. But we know a lots of industries are already established all over the world. Is there any way out or any recommendation recommendation from you that how we transform our existing economic industrial zones to an eco-industrial park? Do you have any recommendation or any research or any data, such type of work, any process, how we transform our existing industrial zone to an eco-industrial park? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for question. And if you let me share my screen, actually to transform the existing eco-industrial park, existing industrial park to eco-industrial park, UNIDO has done quite a bunch of work on that, and this kind of publication and more on these publications, you can download it from our website. And actually for the implementation handbook, this one, we explain how the existing industrial park to transform themselves to eco-industrial park, what they have to do. There is a step-by-step for the policy part, the work plan part, and the planning part, and the implementation part. So it will be a bit long if I explain it here, but if you interest for this kind of information, please download this from our website. And we also have the example on the website that we have access, I think more than 40 to 50 industrial parks all over the world, not just only in Asia, and also in the Latin America, in Africa, and also other regions on their status, and how they can transform to the eco-industrial park.
Thank you, Uma.
Yeah.
Cheng Cheng want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cheng Cheng, last question from Cheng Cheng here. Cheng Cheng.
Am I heard already? Yes, thank you. No, sorry, I wanted to also have a quick remark on Habib's question, because at UNEP we have collaborated with UNIDO on eco-industrial parks as well. We have looked at 4 different industrial parks in China under the Partnership for Action on Green Economy. And actually what we have found out is that building a eco-industrial park from scratch is actually not an ideal approach. So transforming existing ones are actually a better one because of a number of reasons. For example, when you plan an eco-industrial park, but the businesses in this industrial cluster, they change. Sometimes they come in, sometimes they, because of various reasons, they bankrupt or they change their production. So it is actually always the case that we transform an existing industrial park with the support of a park management committee to look at the holistic profile of the profile of the businesses in this cluster, and then try to coordinate and then share information among each other. And this is also related to actually what I introduced earlier on the principles of infrastructure, that it has to be flexible and responsive in a way that the infrastructure needs to be built to facilitate these kind of industrial symbiosis process. So yeah, that's just some findings that I would like to share on our previous project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Next, we would like to, and thank you very much for the audience. You are keeping here for almost 2 hours now. now we are coming to the next part that our participants who are here, can participate. And as you know that this training series today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and Friday are going to be something that we also would like to get some ideas and some thought from you so that we can keep some of the informations and messages that you raise in this program, in this training, as the ideas that AIT and UNEP can share informations to the stakeholders in every countries. AIT Extension is the capacity building center in AIT where we can also reach out to the public agency, government agencies, state-owned enterprise, NGOs, private companies, civil society organization, where we can always share the ideas from these networks of ideas that we are gathering today and until the end of this week, to a kind of raise the policy issues that the key actors, policymaker would keep in mind. So we would like to have a bit of activities, and we already have the grouping for you. We already behind the scene. We already grouped you. All right. So you will be automatically in the groups already after I'm counting 1, 2, 3. All right. So when you see that there is on your screen, there will be breakout room. So you just click and accept. It means that you will go into the group, your small group. All right. You already go to small group. After you go into the small group, you will see, there is a Google document. There is a Google document that your team members, your group members can discuss within your group. You can make noise in the small groups. And then some of you can also make records in that Google papers to keep records. And what you will record, I will tell you, we have 2 questions for you. Every group will have 2 questions. And after you answer that 2 questions, you will come back to the last group, automatically, like magic, you are coming to the last group and make a short presentation. All right. So you can discuss based on the questions that I'm going to show now. Just let refocus what have been talking about, what have the lessons that you get from the speakers and the idea of the discussion and question and answers, and put that into more focus area. Now I will show my screen of the 2 questions that the group will go to the groups and discuss and answer those questions by sharing your idea. Okay, let me show my slide questions here, a quick one. All right, so very simple. Okay, after you go into the groups, you just discuss among your friends coming different corners from the world. What will be what are the policy issues that we have to consider, we have to keep in mind if you are going to kind of sharing information to the key actors, key policy makers, or implementers. What are the policy issues that we should keep in mind in order to promote, in order to implement, in order to advocate for the circularity principle into the sustainable infrastructures. All right, so what are the policy area? The second question is that you are coming from your own perspective. It's never mind you are coming from different countries, you are coming from different organizations, but what are the challenges that you think that is something that you have to overcome so that whatever you say, whatever you said, have been taken seriously and be able to be part of the driving force that the CE, the circular economy, can be really intangible for the implementation. And it is reaching to the point where, things can be move on, and it's sustained at the end of the day. All right. So there are 2 questions. One is, what are the policy issues? The second, what are the challenges? So I will count 1, 2, 3. And if you see the things that you go into the breakout rooms, please click accept and you go and then answer these 2 questions. So please take note of these 2 questions. The first one, policy issues. The second one is challenge. What are those? Okay, 1, 2, 3. go.ดูกี่นาที20 นาที เมื่อกี้พี่ต้องจดดีพี่ขอแป้งน้ำแป๊บนึงแป้งน้ำแป๊บนึงขอแป้งน้ำแป๊บนึงดี webinar 4 days นะโอเคไหมน่าจะ What is problem? Okay, they don't talk about yeah. Okay. They have to talk. So we mix them. And they're coming back. Finish. Okay.
ตอนแรกเขาเข้ามาเขาออกมาอยู่แล้วแล้วเขาก็เป็นตอนแรกมันก็มีเรื่องแรกที่ออกแล้วเขาก็ออก 4 นาทีค่ะแต่ตอนแรกก็นานแล้วเกินตอนแรกก็เกิดว่าคุณก็ร้อง
I think it's because this computer is new already, so that it always disconnected again. That's why the slides went off and off again many times during the presentation.
บ้างจนนักเรียนจะเข้าเก่งไปอยู่ห้องอื่นเองมันรีบออกแล้วเข้ามาใหม่ได้เพราะประสบการณ์ที่ตัวเองเป็นสามารถเลือกเข้าห้องเก่าเข้าห้องได้
Right. I'm waiting for you. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I really, I'm very happy to see everybody here is very active. Although I enjoy every groups, I would say that this is a good opportunity. To be very honest, it's not just because of AIT or UNEP, but because of we are get connected with this platform of event. And then we would like to share the message that we would like to share, especially post COVID-19. We would like to share something, and Cheng is around all the time. That we can get connected to Mr. Cheng sitting in headquarters. I mean, in the Geneva office of UNEP, and he would also kind of keeping in mind the discussions that we are going to have in the next 3-4 days. So that is actually the opportunity. Second is that we are thinking that this is the champion of the networks of the circular economy infrastructure over here, and we would like to perhaps find a ways that we can keep this connection, that we can use a kind of a social media things or whatever way that we can get connected, so that we can discuss further issues. We can do some activities together, maybe lead by your organization, lead by UNEP, lead by AIT, lead by even UNIDO and some other UN agencies, because we are in a platform where we can share things. So I hope every group is coming back now. So let's start from the first group. I don't have the group numbers or group names here, but let's start from group 1. So we have time. So maybe group 1, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, please. You can also share the screen.
Do we need to present, you mean?
Yes, you can present verbally, and you can also share screen, introduce yourself, speak on behalf of your group, a little bit of that. Yes, good enough.
Okay, I'm Upendra Ajivini, representing National Cleaner Production Center, Sri Lanka. This is the things that we discuss with our group members, group 1. What are the key policy issues and group and your group want to keep in mind? We discuss. It's a no proper guideline to use to develop policies and develop infrastructure and all, and lack of knowledge and capacity on sustainable infrastructure development. And economic growth mainly concern on mass consumption. So it's a one issue, because always we are trying to do our economic growth based on mass consumption patterns and rapid changes of technology, and it will cause to more consumption patterns, and no economic incentives to support the circular economy and fulfill the closed loop economy, and public engagement not addressed well in the policy discussions and all, and the issues on using modern technology. And what are the challenges in policy making? We discussed economic feasibility is a challenge, and awareness among people is also a challenge, and collaboration among multiple stakeholders. So to take a one decision, the multiple stakeholder participation is a very valuable thing, but in this discussion it's a challenge to get together all these stakeholders, and technology feasibility and availability of the technology again challenge for policy implementation relevant to the circular economy, and trained human resources for this policy implementation, it's also another challenge, and lack of finance and lack of capacity and public engagement, and grassroots level implementation is must plan properly, so otherwise it will be another challenge in this policy implementation, and supply chain awareness management is also another challenge, and current mindset of industries for going for innovations. So these are the some key points we discussed. If our group members have to add points more than this, I would like to hand over to our group members. Thank you.
Great points, group one. Great points, thank you. I just want to repeat 2 points which is presented by group one. One is the kind of the guidelines. So I think that is something that we have heard from the question of Upenda herself just a while ago, and also about the innovation mindset. So that is something that I just want to raise here. Good points. Thank you very much, group one. So let's go for group two, please. So group two, yes, Tarun representing group two.
For group two, I'd like to share.
Please.
Just a second.
Yes, now we can see Alina.
Okay, for the first question, key policy issue, we are here for like lack of understanding and technology transfer with shortage of budget, reluctant to switch to a new one, lack of incentive for implementing the CE practices, unaware about the real site situation, and lack of skilled manpower, ignoring the policy environment, feasibility study, and the market size and the demand, harmonize the SDGs goal, set unrealistic goals, integration and linkage, and unavoidable circumstances for the key policies issues that one should have think. Then the second questions for like challenges that policymaker have to consider for effective implementation of CE policies on sustainable infrastructure are political role, technology upscale very slow, good practices, new innovation, location as we have to think about, community engagement, dialogue with the stakeholders, cost and benefit analysis, lack of expertise and budget, sustainability, mission and vision of the organization or country, people acceptance, government willingness, and limited database of material flow analysis, and resource and institution, and lastly, barrier between upstream and downstream interconnection. And if any other points that my friend would like to add is welcome. Thank you.
Alina, can you go to your slide one? I have one query about what do you mean by ignoring the policy environment?
Sorry?
What do you mean? What does your group means on the ignoring the policy environment? Can you elaborate more?
Regarding that, like existing policy might be not taken into account while making the new one. So that's what
Okay.
we want to mean.
Get the point. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Group two, big hands to group twos. Next, we can go for group three.
Joe, thank you for
Yes.
opportunity. So I'm going to represent group three. Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Yes. A little small. Can you enlarge it?
Upper.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So these are the key points that we have discussed along with the group. So the first question was what are the key policy issues? I think the policy issues that need to be considered, the inclusive regulatory activities regarding the circular economy, and the providing economic and financial support. The other groups also mentioned that the lack of fund or other things. So in that case, if the government can give the subsidiary or financial supports to the individuals or the groups that are coming to participate, so that would be helpful. So that sort of support is needed. And another is the ensuring the regular monitoring and evaluation process, because if we add new, if we implement new regulatory activities, but we also need to ensure that those are being properly followed. So periodical monitoring and evaluation process is also needed, and ensuring the policy for proper recycling facilities, because as you know that if we here we have also seen that we are using different technological things or technological upgrades are there. So we are going to use different assets. So we should also ensure, take care the recycling policies as well. And considering the environmental reservation issues to protect from various types of pollution, like the noise pollution, erosion, the water pollution, that sort of things also need to be considered. And the challenges that policymakers have to consider while implementing those things. The friendly and inclusive marketing strategy is needed, so that more and more organization or individuals and groups feel interested to participate. And as we said, that there will be some new regulatory activities or regulatory rules and regulations. So people actually need time to adapt to the new rules, or they need to get time to accustom with the new policies. So we also need to take initiative to publicize those rules and regulations as well, so that people get familiarized with those things. And there are some infrastructure challenges, like if we want to build more infrastructure. So in some mega cities or in some areas, we have lack of land. So and the energy availability, resource and availability of fund, those things need to be considered. And finally, the last point that we think that the technological barrier, because the new technology is coming. So what we saw that in some industries or in some areas, people set up new industrial machineries or equipments, but when the people transfer or move from that industry or move from that area, that time the replacement is sometimes difficult, because the proper resource is not available, or the technical experts is not available. So these are kind of barrier. So if I miss any other point, I would request my team members to add more. Thank you from our side.
These are good points. Actually, one of the points that I just want to say here is point D in the question one. So you will hear from one of the speaker on Thursday about the about the several R's, R's possibilities in circular economy there. So on the 9th, we are organizing the in-person training in AIT. So if anybody would like to fly to Thailand and would like to attend their training in AIT, you are welcome. But those who cannot fly to Thailand on the 9th, you can also participate in a hybrid. So you can also participate like this through online. But just for your information, day after tomorrow, we also have a session in person and also Zoom. So
send us an invitation letter, Pijo.
Yes.
Send us an invitation letter so that we can fly.
Okay. Yes. Invitation letters. No need air tickets. All right. And then another point is on the point question number 2Z. I think this is something that we have to keep in mind in terms of the resource availabilities, infrastructure or basic infrastructure availabilities. I can understand what this group 3 means by this, kind of stabilities of energies and so on and so forth. Thank you very much, group 3. Now we move to group 4 quickly, but importantly. So
please stop screen share.
I will share the slide, and also we have the presenter that Bernard would like to present. I will share.
Yes, Dr. Chomdi, please.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Bernard, go ahead.
All right, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, good.
All right. These are what we discuss on the issues concerning policies in respect to circular economy. One of the issues we discussed on policy on plastic waste that must affect people and community. There's no good policy, especially when it comes to, we're making a reference to African countries. There are no good policy. What I mean by good policy, that even when policies are made, they are not implemented, or the political will is not there for enforcement of this policy. And also awareness. People are not aware of most of the policies that are being made. You see, most policies that are being made is just been within the stakeholders. It doesn't go down the chain where those who are directly affected, they are not aware of the policy. So some of the challenges that these policymakers have to consider is participation. When there is a collaboration as well, everybody should participate. All those from the chains, from the stakeholders down to the last stage, everybody must participate, and there needs to be collaboration. And one thing again is inclusive governance. There's no inclusive governance, and there's always some government issues there involved in policy making. So even when the policy is being made, due to government issues, it's always not realistic as well. And again, the knowledge, the mindset also matters a lot in policy making. This is because our younger generations, they tend not to be aware of or not considering circular economy as well. So the mindset, it's different, especially from our younger generation. So even when policies are being made, it tends not to be too effective, because considering our younger generations, except for us that we're aware, because we're in the business, we know what circular economy is all about. So for us, it's okay. But for those who are not in circular economy, or who lack the knowledge or the mindset, who doesn't have the mindset of circular economy, they won't consider policy, they won't value policy that concerns circular economy. So as such, there should be more knowledge. There should be more knowledge and more awareness on this policy as well. And also, the young people are the key for policy development implementation. As I mentioned earlier, the young people lack this knowledge. They are not aware of the circular economy, and they are the key people in this policy and implementation, because they tend to be more active in some of these things. So when they lack the knowledge, I think there will be issues with this policy. So basically, that was what we discussed on in our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you, Dr. Chongdi, and members of Group 4. Yeah, I mean, political will. This is something very interesting. Starting from the young people is something also we can keep on this, keep eyes on this one, and also the mindset. So actually, in this forum that we are having now, as Bernard has said, we have the people in our 60 or so people that coming today and next days. They are starter, they are in business, and they are also people that also already expand that their research and developments in order to scale up the circular economy. So I believe that these forums of the 4 days, we have a different group of people that Bernard mentioned about, and we are having a good chance to interact. Starters, the people in business, and also the people want to expand the business as scaling up the circular economy. So we have a good opportunity. Thank you very much, Group 4. Now we are coming to the last but not the least group, Group 5.
I will stop the
Six
share.
group. We have 6 group. Yes. Yes, Alina, please. You have to attend your class. See you tomorrow. Group 5, please. So Group 5 discuss about the sustainable infrastructure. Main issues are lack of economy, following all the procedure for development. Maybe Group 5 has to explain this. I can't read, and I can read, but I will not be able to cover everything. Okay, so we take note of Group 5 ideas. Never mind, we keep this paper. Now we move to Group 6, please. Group 6.
Problem.
Camera, you are Group 5, nah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please. Perfect. Great.
Related to a lack of economy, because in Nepal we are.
Your mic is off.
Mic is. To which sustainable infrastructure development is very slow, and key policy issues is related due to lack of as well as due to the
Okay.
challenges.
Please continue.
Process for policy which seems to be
Yeah. Go on, no problem.
quick capacity, poor standard.
All right.
Limited transparency.
Right.
And finally, the lack of financing.
Thank you, Group 5. Thank you, Group 5. Although this is not very clear, but we can understand the flows and also the message that you are sending in this. Thank you so much. So now we move to Group 6. Group 6, last but not the least. Kimraj, can you stop presentation so that Group 6 can present? If you don't mind, please. I already take pictures of your this one, so don't worry, we remember. So Group 6. Group 6, maybe at the back office, we can show you a slide on behalf of your group. So Group 6 refer to the enforcement policies. These would be somehow related to the regulation and legislation. I suppose so. If I'm not correct, then please correct me if I'm wrong. So enforcement would be related to the legislation and legal issues. A lack of resources at the level where policy is to be implemented. Right. So I think this is understood. Many countries, like our countries, we don't have sufficient resources we are not luxurious of supporting this implementation. So that is understood. And then lack of nexus approach. Can you elaborate on this one? Group 6?
Yeah. If we think lack of nexus approach in our countries, like when we develop our circular economy policies, we have to think about air pollution issues, climate change issues, all those other environmental issues and associated with social and economical issues. So as we can get an example that in circular economy, there is a main principle that reuse, recycle, recovery, those things. But when it comes to environmental protection, sometimes it's better to dispose rather than recycling. Like if we get something like LED lamp that we use for lighting in the buildings, we can think that we should recycle or recover material. But for our countries, like developing countries, it's more environmentally friendly if we can dispose safely rather than spending money and also technology on recycling or recovery, because up to now we don't have much standard procedure for recycling that kind of like small electronic appliances. So that's why I think that when we think about applying circular economy policies into our countries, we should think it as a nexus approach. Like we should think about other associated policy approaches that we can take, and then we should get the best available or solution for those issues. Yeah, that's what we wanted to.
Your points. So your points, your group points were taken in relation to the nexus approach here. So every dimensions, every angles of the plannings and also the decisions on how to go about in terms of technology has to be taken into consideration. So yes. If we are ready for eco-friendly only, why not, for example? So it's good idea. So Lakshmi, can you also continue for the second question? Can you also explain the second list?
Yeah, for the second question, we need to present 5 points. That first thing is existing urban infrastructure and industrial zones, and second one, stakeholders participation, and third one, policies developed at developing countries unsuitable for other countries. I would like to give some example for this one. As you saw that we already saw a presentation about Japan, Tokyo City, but in countries like South Asian region, when we have to, I would like to actually collect those 2 points, like policies developed at developing countries unsuitable for other countries, and also transparency and corruption at national level. I would like to give example from my country. I'm from Sri Lanka. That we had some kind of opportunity to initiate a project that lightweight railway system, but we didn't do it because of some corruption and transparency issues at national level. So we missed that chance, and also so I can give some example that how those policies that developed in developed countries have stopped or like paused when we try to apply into developing countries due to some kind of like barriers like transparency and corruptions and cultural barriers. In the case of adoption to biogas, there were many objections to use animal or like biomass animal mass for biogas generation. So that kind of like cultural barriers we have to think when we apply circular economy policies in national level.
Thank you, Group 6. Thank you, Lakshani, for your this one. Don't worry. We have many things in common in developing countries. So actually, these environments that give almost the same base to start with the circular economy application in infrastructure sustainability. I believe that we are not different in terms of policy environments and political environment and so on and so forth. So we are not worried now, but we are looking at how the futures we can learn from each other. We can also learn from the best practice that we are listening today. So on behalf of the organizers here, on behalf of UNEP, Cheng is here, and other colleagues, Dr. Mammon, Dr. Chris, and also my colleagues from UNEP and from AIT. We thank you a lot of your contributions and of your patience, of your time, of joining today. Don't forget to stay tuned. For those who join until the Friday things, whether it is online or it is in person, we are happy to give away the certificate of participation, because this paper is not that you are joining these things, but we would like to keep the kind of spirit of the policy issues that you are now growing the confidence to the key stakeholders in the countries, in any countries, to be able to focus on what are the areas that we can move forward with the circular economy on sustainable agriculture. So today is only day one, but we got a lot of resources, we got a lot of information, we got a lot of best practice, so we have a good start. We are looking forward to see you again online or in person, also who can come to AIT on the 9th. Please feel free to come. We also have, we can enjoy the real coffee, we can enjoy real lunch. For those who cannot come to AIT, we can also have a virtual coffee break and virtual lunch, and no problem. Thank you so much, and see you again tomorrow afternoon, online, Zoom, 2 p.m. Bangkok time. Thank you so much for today. You are champions. Thank you.